Hey guys, we're with Stephanie Murphy once again from Spokane, Washington, up north in Deer Park. She covers the whole area, Spokane County-wide and even more. Hi,
Yeah,
Stephanie. How are you today?
I'm good, John. How are you?
I'm good as well, but we had a conversation going off camera that I think I want to pursue on camera, if you're okay with that. You were telling me a little bit about the dark side of the real estate business, and I find that really kind of intriguing. What's that about?
There's always a dark side. The morbid. No, I'm just kidding. We won't go morbid on it, but no, there's definitely a dark side to the real estate industry, as there is with everything, because not always is rainbows and butterflies, and there's a whole lot of reality that happens. Um, that kind of almost gets missed and not even talked about because nobody really likes to talk about the boring, mundane, like meh. They always want to share the fun stuff. And I'm here, well, because majority of my business is not the rainbows and butterflies, ironically enough. So specifically speaking, there's just different types of things that you can run into while in the business. And as we know, money is a great tool. But that tool can be utilized for good or for bad. And so who you hire really does make a difference.
Okay.
And to my point is when you're hiring professionals, you want to make sure that you understand clearly what it is that you're doing, whether that's buying or selling. And one of the things that I keep running into as the market kind of slowed down, inventory has kind of sat a little bit longer, as we know.
Okay.
Well, prime example would be is I have a buyer that we are actively shopping for. They're pre-approved, and there's a house where, online, again, this goes to the griminess of the business. Some people can utilize photographers and take some really stellar pictures that are very deceiving to what reality will show when you show up. And let me tell you, there is nothing more frustrating than, your client, you're getting excited because you're like, oh yeah, this might really actually work. And as we came off of a hot market, emotions of clients and buyers and sellers are oftentimes, they're a little bit on edge as it is because, well, everything shifted and changed. So to top it, when you go to a property that you're like, well, don't get too excited, but maybe I can because it's slowed down a little bit. So maybe this will work. Well, then when you get there, then you're like, is this the same house? Literally. I've had it
Oh,
happen
wow.
so many times. I love it because I do also tell my clients, be very careful with the houses that you see when you're scrolling through all of your pictures, whichever platform they use, it doesn't really matter like what platform they're using to do the shopping. But when they're doing the shopping is to pay attention to the photos, because if photos look like they are highlighted with colors, I mean, that's great, but not always is that true. And so I've even seen some really fabulous lawns, and then you get there, there's no lawn at all. So be careful.
Well, that's
Who you
interesting.
hire.
Yeah.
Have you never seen this? I'm very curious. Have you seen it on your end?
Well, I don't see properties up front as much as you do, of course.
That's true.
Right. We get properties on the appraisal, and we see the appraisal, and there's no fudging on pictures there. The appraiser goes out, takes photos of what it really looks like, and sends pictures to us, and that's what we get to see. So probably I don't see as much of this because you avoid them when you find that property. You don't make the offer on it because it's not the property you thought it was, and we don't ever see it. Right.
Right.
That's really
Yes.
interesting.
Huh. Well, I guess, yeah, that does make sense on your end. You probably wouldn't see that necessarily. Have you ever seen where a seller blatantly lied about disclosing of known facts about the home? Have you ever seen that?
I don't know that I recall where they blatantly lied. I get a lot of I don't know about things that you would expect a seller to know
Okay.
on the form. What's it called? The form 17? Is that what it's called,
Yep.
Stephanie?
The seller
Yeah.
disclosure.
Yeah, the seller disclosure form. So we do get those sometimes, and we rely, just so you know, guys, we rely on the appraiser. We don't require an inspection be done on the property. Typically, I typically would suggest anyone who's buying property get an inspection done by a
Yes.
professional qualified inspector, knows what they're doing, and they points out all the problems. But as a lender, we rely on the appraiser. And if the appraiser points something out to us, like the roof leaking or the windows broken out or something like that, we're going to look deeper into that and have things fixed if we know if there's anything that does need to be addressed on the home. And if there's some kind of something in a picture, or maybe the appraiser alludes to something like there's a whole big ant stream rolling in and out of that house, then we're going to ask the qualified inspector potentially to get involved and check the issue out, whatever it is, and make sure that things are okay. And that does happen. Okay. Occasionally we see that on appraisals, but it's relatively infrequent.
That is good. The one thing I will say, as the market has shifted, and I don't know if I can, whatever, I'm going to say it anyways. One thing I do want to caution buyers as they're out shopping now too, is you had a lot of investors or people that picked up properties right before the market took off, or during the market takeoff, and a lot of agents, I'm even going to throw my team under the bus here, not my team personally, but like, I guess my area of workers, that there are a lot of people that got in the business as an agent, but they did it from an investment standpoint. So what they were doing is using it for the sole purpose of acquisition of properties at a really good deal, and then to be able to turn and flip them. So I like to call them the turn and burners, because they're really good at putting lipstick on pigs, let me tell you. And I say it that way because, again, if you've been in the business long enough and you are present with your clients and you are actively there when you know, you have contractors out there, inspectors out there, and sometimes even appraisers. Like, if you're a really good agent and you've been doing this and you treated this as a business, then you should have been like a sponge the first few years in the business and paid attention, because in that way you can go into these properties and you can look and see. And sometimes you don't even have to look and see. Sometimes you can just make a phone call and ask enough fact-finding questions, and they will unveil what you need to. And another prime example is a shopper I was just shopping with. There was a house that, by the pictures, it looked like it had been fully updated and remodeled, and you would think that that's what you would expect to find when you go to walk in the home. But again, very deceiving. It's really easy to slap some new paint and new carpet and new flooring and fixtures that look great and shiny and new. But then when you ask the questions of like, great, perfect, who did your updated plumbing, and then who did your updated electrical as you went through and did these upgrades? Because I see that this house is obviously, you know, from the early 1900s. So obviously, as you start tapping into one project, you should then be updating and moving along as you go. And so when the answer is, oh, well, they just updated the things that they were working on as they went along, that tells me, right, there's going to be holes.
Got it. So then you do a complete job. Got it.
Correct.
Okay.
Holes of completion, meaning that there's still going to then potentially be work for a client to have to potentially consume from cost and time, depending on the quality of work that was done with that uplifting that they do. Stuff like that. The other thing that you can look for too in these properties, and in this market too, is a lot of the back on markets that are coming on. When you see something that's coming back on the market more than, I would say probably twice, that should be a flag to ask a lot of questions. What is happening during the inspection timeframe? Because, as you know too, the inspection timeframe, although not required, it is highly suggested and recommended, because when you have a professional that's going to go in and look at the property, their sole purpose is to go in and uncover items that they see that might be something that's going to be a cost incurred to the potential buyer. It's like the buyer beware. There's what you may find, here's what you may have happen, but proceed, you know, with caution. This is what, you know, the remedy could be, but just know it's going to be a cost. And that's really what you need to be doing and should be looking for when you're hiring an agent and professional. But that's just the tip of the iceberg of them.
Yeah. Any more you want to chat about in this very revealing video?
I would say the other thing to be very careful of is the compensation and the money transferring that happens throughout transactions.
Okay.
Pay attention to that too, because again, there's a lot of agents that know how to negotiate deals that would potentially benefit them on the back end. And again, you're not really going to know this unless you pay attention, I guess, or you actively seek out information. And so the way that you do that is just simply by asking questions. I know for a fact I annoy people like crazy because I'm a question person, and I'm like, I don't like that answer. Let me ask this question. I want to see how I can make sense of this. So I ask a lot of questions, but by doing so, you can learn a lot of different things, which will help make you, a better calculated risk person, I guess. So then you can calculate if that risk is worth it and to pursue. So the money component side of it is just being cautious and being careful to make sure that there's not like padded money being put in, if you will. And in addition to that, when you are transferring your money, make sure that you're still talking to your agent or your lender or your closing company to make sure that they are in fact the ones that are asking for the money. I know of someone literally who's in my neighborhood. They almost lost their house because when they went to go wire their down payment, their email had gotten hacked into and the funds, $80,000 were wire transferred to an account that was not party to this transaction at all. And so, yeah, the FBI had to get involved. Thank God they were able to recover it. Honestly, not always does that happen. And it ended up being a happy ending for these people, but they were very, very, very lucky in all honesty.
Yes. Wow. Absolutely.
So you have to be very, very careful. And I honestly, like, I can speak more on that too, just because of my prior banking experience and fraud and like how that whole works. But so just be careful, pay attention, be alert. This is not just a transaction that, should be burned through easily. And I know we just came off of a really hot market where things were flying so fast that so many people, in my opinion, just signed things blindly, not really even fully understanding, and a lot of mistakes were made, honestly. But there's a lot that didn't have to and does not have to be made if you just slow down just a smidge.
Slow down, use your team, and include your agents, an experienced, honest agent who asks all the right questions like Steffani's talking about. I would highly recommend inspection on every property with a qualified professional inspector. And you bet wire fraud is increasing all the time. So be very, very careful and verify before you wire funds.
Yes. And new construction inspections, I get balked at a lot for this. When I ever throw in the addendum, they're like, why would you do that? Do it. Someone who has built new construction, they don't know what their subcontractors are always doing. So pay attention and hire someone, because that is your one opportunity to come back and be like, no, 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 I want this fixed right now. And you want to use it as leverage. Don't wait for their warranty time frame, because that's a nightmare.
Absolutely true. That is your opportunity to negotiate prior to the sale closing, when all eyes are open and you know of these issues.
Yes. And use it for the leverage that it needs to be used for, because it's important.
Yep. Absolutely.
Do not be pressured into something.
Don't be pressured in anything. Don't rush in to these things, even though the market kind of pushes you. Caution is the better part of valor here. I agree.
Yes.
Yeah,
Informed consent is a big thing.
Keep
We're getting
informed.
back towards that, which I appreciate. I like this market slowing down a little bit, just simply because it really does minimize the error that can happen and take place. And not just error, like, because I don't think that most oftentimes, I will say this, I don't think malice is truly at the core of most people's intent when they go their motive. I don't think that's what it is, but I think that it happens because they're moving so quickly that they also forget the details, and the details in this business are what matter wholeheartedly.
Absolutely. Yep.
So.
All the way through. Good advice. Interesting
Thanks.
video this time, Steffani. I didn't really anticipate this until we started talking before, and it's very interesting and good advice, folks.
Well, thank you. I hope to educate. That's my biggest thing, is I just want to educate and help people along the way. And I feel that this area of the industry needs a little bit of love in the service department.
Fair enough. All right, guys. Steffani's contact information is on the screen. Mine is a little earlier on the screen. If you have any questions on any of this stuff, give us a call. We're here to educate, we're here to inform. There is no high pressure sales you're going to find here. We find that educated, informed buyers are better buyers all the way around.
They're better, not bitter. No, just kidding. Better.
Thanks, Steffani. Appreciate your time today.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Have a good day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.